Hey guys, Dervinator here. In the weeks since New Year rolled around, I've had a $120 speeding ticket for not slowing down before reaching a 50k sign. I've had my laptop die in the middle of editing my biggest project yet, which was my previously released top 10 favourite movies of the year. I've had an old man back into my car, denting the bumper and shattering the light, which is another $60, amongst a myriad of other various bills and repayments and that due, while still having basically zero income. All this to say, I'm not exactly in the mood to be defending every single point I try and make in this video, because this year had a lot of films that I felt failed to meet expectations, or even just plain let me down. This isn't a list of movies that suck. There are a couple at the end which I think really did suck and deserve to be, but I didn't have enough money, as you know, this year to afford to see that many movies, so I didn't get to see as many bad movies. I don't go out of my way to see bad movies like the Emoji Movie and 50 Shades and stuff like that, so they won't be on this list. These are movies that I felt were worth going out to see at the cinema, and either were just lackluster or I felt let me down. Obviously, again, this video contains lots of my personal opinions, so don't get upset about it, and instead leave your opinions in the comments. Let me know what you think! I should not be doing this with a headache. Okay, before I get started, I just want to give a brief outline of the inspiration for this video. You see, 2017 was coming to a close, and I was worrying that my tastes in film had changed because there were 3 movies that had come out that people were saying were the best of the year and everyone was raving about, and I was looking forward to seeing, and they had all really let me down, and I seemed to be alone in thinking that. And it's not like I had petty complaints about it. I mean, obviously I have my nitpicks and that, but they just really didn't appeal to me, and I couldn't see why people loved them so much. And I was really starting to freak out, like, oh gosh, am I becoming more cynical? Am I not enjoying this? Because I didn't enjoy most of the TV shows I saw last year. So I ended up writing down all the movies I'd seen in the year, and thankfully, no, it was just those 3 that were like the super popular ones that disappointed me. Obviously, this is a list of 10, but thankfully, not every movie of the year I thought was bad. And thanks to me doing that, I ended up collating my list and ended up with a best or top 10 favourite list and a top 10 disappointing list. So without further ado, let's get on with
Number 10, 47 meters down.
Yeah, this is only here because I didn't expect anything from Justice League, so of course it couldn't disappoint me. And the fact that Open Water 3 Cage Dive really surprised me with its smaller budget, whereas this gets a major theatrical release and a substantially bigger budget, only to be so bland and boring. Look, I'll sum it up like this. The intrigue of this movie ends with the title. So similar to Open Water, there's an accident with a cage diving crew, only this time the whole boat doesn't go into the water, it's just the little cage, and they fall down to the bottom and they're stuck 47 meters down, and that's the intrigue of the movie gone. The rest of the time is just these 2 girls trying to escape from it, trying to figure out how to get back up, and it's not as good as Open Water. Now, that's probably because I saw Open Water first, and I felt that like the first person aspect of it really helped because everything was set on the waterline, anything could jump up from any moment, like you couldn't see all around you. It was really good, whereas a film like this, you know, it's not filmed like that. You can see everything, so it's harder for a shark to sneak up on you. And when it does, it's poorly done jump scare rubbish. Like I said, not a bad movie, just really bland, and just stuff happens at the end. Like, this is a minor spoiler if you care, but they mention earlier in the movie that you can see mirages or hallucinate something. So a character dies in the movie and then they randomly come back out of the blue, which is sort of weird, and then they escape. It's like, oh hey, cool, they got out. And then the screen goes all funny and it reveals that no, one of the characters is still down there and it was all just a hallucination, which could have been like a really morbid ending to the film. But no, then like 5 minutes into the movie later, they get saved, and it's a happy ending for that character, so it's entirely pointless. And there's one cool shot in this, and that's the part they show in the trailer, which is where they pull out a flare, and when the flare lights off, it shows like 3 sharks around them with their mouths open, ready to chomp down.
Hello, my name is Bruce.
But instead, they just decide to swim away, because bright lights are scary to sharks. As someone who's scared of sharks, this movie didn't scare me, it didn't have me on the edge of my seat or anything, it was just bland. I didn't even pay that much attention to it. If you enjoyed it, that's fair, it's like a popcorn movie. Alright, got the easy one out of the way, moving on.
Number 9, Thor Ragnarok.
I do really like Thor. I just wish that the comedic genre blended better with the world of Thor, and I felt that it just just really didn't. It was quite cringy. No, it was really cringy at times, especially that opening scene where he's hanging on the chain and he's spinning around. It's like, oh, wait, you gotta wait for me to just spin around. This is funny. I remember around the time of its release, people were saying, behind the scenes, people realised something. Thor can be funny. No, Chris Hemsworth can be funny as a parody of Thor.
Daryl here is helping me craft an electronic letter. I'm writing to Captain America and Iron Man. There seems to be something very intense going on between them, and I want to offer my help, my services.
So here's an idea. Let's take that parody Thor and put him in a full-length movie in Norse mythology setting? That's the main thing I want to drive home, is that the Norse mythology doesn't gel well with the sort of comedic nature and the improvisational tendencies this movie likes to go with. Sometimes the humour worked really well and made me crack up with laughter. Korg's reaction to Thor's explanation of his hammer especially.
Sounds like you had a pretty special and intimate relationship with this hammer, and that losing it was almost comparable to losing a loved one.
But for the most part, I was left wondering how these improvised moments were left in the finished product. Now, normally I wouldn't incorporate other people's personal opinions in my video, but there is a brilliant video by The Weekend Warrior. He's one of my favourite channels. He doesn't, mirror what I said, but expands upon the points I've made. So if you want to know more about what I'm trying to say, his video pretty much perfectly sums that up and then expands upon it and explains why some of the jokes and the moments in this movie don't land, I'm sure, the way they were intended.
Some of the improv jokes don't work. Like the whole Stephen Strange sequence. It's like they substituted what could have been an interesting interaction between two heroes with, hey, you got beer, isn't that funny? Also the scene when Thor was gonna fight, and he saw the Valkyrie and he wanted to get out, so he's trying to convince her. And he stops and makes the improv bit, which doesn't work because he said that when he was younger, he wanted to be a Valkyrie. And then he said, it's about time for women to be represented. And I'm like, if they were already represented when you were younger, then this joke doesn't make sense, right?
Not to mention that living in New Zealand, having a Kiwi directing this movie, every single day there were more and more news articles coming up on my Facebook dashboard about Taika Waititi this, Taika Waititi that, oh, it's going to be so brilliant and stuff like that. So, as a New Zealander, this movie was thrust upon me because we don't get all that much exposure on the wide world of cinema. I do love What We Do in the Shadows, and I do appreciate Hunt for the Wilder People, though that's not, I don't think it would appeal to an international audience as much as a New Zealand audience because it's got a lot of multicultural and a lot more New Zealand-centric themes and ideals and stuff like that. It's still very funny, but I just don't think it has as much wider appeal as something like What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. So he did do a really good job of directing this, and I'm pretty sure anyone that watches the Thor movies will agree that it was time for a change, as they're some of the weakest of the MCEU movies. I had a good time watching it, but upon reflection, yeah, there were a lot of times where the jokes just didn't work, the improv was just so out of place, and they just didn't all mesh well together. And like any superhero movie, there were some really dumb moments, like Carl Urban's character going out in a blaze of glory with infinite ammo and whatever. Anyway, I like Thor Ragnarok, but it did let me down a bit. Which one's next? Oh gosh, no. Okay. I don't want to talk about this. Don't make me talk about this, please. Okay, this is the first of the 3 movies that I saw this year that everybody loved and were saying were the best. But I didn't. So let's just get on with it.
Number 8 is, Logan.
I'm just gonna grab this for my protection. Yeah, Logan. Where do I begin? Okay, so let me just start by telling a story about when I saw this movie in the cinema. So of course I had heard everything about this movie going to be the greatest of the X-Men movies. It's going to be Hugh Jackman's grand farewell. It's going to be the R-rated superhero Wolverine movie we've always wanted. So I go into it with that hype expectation. Not super hyped, but I went into it, you know, expecting to enjoy it, especially with the reviews it was getting. I don't normally let review opinions get to me before watching a movie, but I enjoy the X-Men movies for the most part, so I didn't see any reason why I wouldn't enjoy this. And I knew it was going to be a very different feeling X-Men movie. I know it was going to have a different tone and was pretty much separate from the X-Men canon that we know. Not to mention the fact that so many people were drawing comparisons between this and The Last of Us, what with its obvious style and tone comparisons, but I don't really like The Last of Us. So I'm sitting there watching it and I'm enjoying it and I'm like, yeah,
this is good, right? Yeah, this is good. Yeah, action. Oh, this movie's got blood in it. Yeah. Oh, lots of swearing. Okay, not sure about that, but you know, that's just me. Yeah, more action. Ah, so cool.
didn't really feel the emotional weight of his sort of daughter. And as the credits roll, I'm like, yes, I enjoyed that. That was so good. Right? Yeah, I enjoyed that. Right? Second guessing myself a bit. And just before my excitement gets the better of me and I launch into the whole greatest movie of all time thing that I assume most people did, my partner turns to me and she's like, well, that was okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? That was the greatest movie ever. But then I start quoting all the reviews and, you know, letting other people's opinions get to me. She says, well, why did he die, really? And I say, well, they explained it in the movie. They said that he was sick. Sick with what? You know, he had the cough. You know, coughing blood means he was sick. You just don't get it. You know, it's the adamantium sickness, right? It makes sense, right? Well, yeah, they explained it early on. That he was sick because blah, 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 blah. Well, that's dumb. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. And then from that point, everything I had just watched started to fall apart. So I'm guessing most people, when you see a movie that everyone likes, and you kind of feel like you need to like it, or genuinely enjoy it, you know, you let that hype get to the better of you. And as soon as you talk to one other person that reciprocates your own thoughts on the movie, then it's like, right, my thoughts and opinions are justified, this movie's the greatest. Well, for me, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I really enjoyed that. And then I had one inconsistency or dumb moment pointed out to me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't explained as well. Now, this was a bigger channel. I'd have like a myriad of comments in the comment section telling me about, actually it said this point in this movie and blah 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 blah. But like I said in my previous video, I've only watched these movies once each time, and walking out of the cinema, I could not tell her what the crap it was dying of. And I know that wasn't an important aspect of the movie. Well, no, it was very important. Hugh Jackman's farewell. I mean, Wolverine dying, it was a pretty big deal. And on the drive home, I started thinking about all these dumb moments. And yes, I really did feel there were silly moments in the movie. Not huge things, and mostly nitpicks, but you've got to understand, I don't think this is a bad movie. I just really thought nothing of it in the end. Like, the whole R-rated aspect, I thought, wasn't wasted, but, like, I wish we could have seen that sort of thing with Wolverine in his heyday. That's just a personal thing. I would have loved to have seen Wolverine go crazy and stuff. Whereas in this, he was kind of just, every time he beat up a couple of dudes, he'd start coughing. Logan swearing like crazy made sense, but Charles Xavier, not as much. The albino character, I don't know what his name is, his heroic sacrifice was dumb.
Beware the light.
Some of the character moments were dumb.
Beautiful send-off to an actor, but a piss-poor way to kill off a character.
There was a scene that I laughed at, and it was right at the end when Draco Malfoy's getting basically obliterated by all these kids, and the camera pans up to the kids, and it just looks so silly, because there's one kid with like the power of nature or something dragging him in. Everyone else is just useless. There's one girl that's like going, blowing ice or something, and there's a kid doing little Palpatine lasers, and they're just personal nitpicks, but it just looked really silly and made me laugh.
There's only one of them doing anything.
This video was supposed to be shorter. Please don't hate me, I just didn't enjoy this movie, okay? I didn't think it was that fantastic. Look, I'm not a prolific writer. I can't craft wonderful paragraphs explaining exactly how I feel and putting thoughts into sentences and stuff like that. I just did the best I could to explain to you why I didn't like Logan all that much. If it's your movie of the year, good for you. I'm happy for you. Some use this was. I actually might keep that aside for later. So that was the first of the 3 movies I referred to at the start of the video. Now moving on to possibly the most painful entry of this list for me.
Number 7 is Bright.
Oh, Bright. I wanted this to be good so much. Alright, to start things off with, this is directed by David Ayer. Now, despite what you might think of his movies, Fury is my absolute favourite movie of all time. At this point in time. One day there may be a movie that topples it, but I love this movie. I think it's a cinematic masterpiece to me. Now, I see some other movies, like End of Watch, I think, that's really cool, I wonder who directed it. Oh, it's David Ayer. And a movie like Sabotage. I didn't think much of it when I watched it, but I found it sticking with me as time went on, and I found out, oh, that's also David Ayer. And, grab this just in case. I do like Suicide Squad. Yeah, it's not amazing, but I can see what the movie could have been under David Ayer's direction if it wasn't for all the studio interference. The movie could have been so much better than it was and have such a better critical reception. Anyway, this is not a video about Suicide Squad. When one of my favourite bands, Bastille, dropped their song World Gone Mad, and it was like a promotional music video tie-in for this upcoming feature called Bright, not only did I freaking love that song, like it's my song of the year, but it got me intrigued as to what this movie was about. See, I didn't know the plot synopsis, so it looked like a sort of like a, not a buddy cop, but something like Training Day, where it had someone with like a skin disfigurement, and Will Smith, and they're going around what looked like LA or something, and it looked like they were swapping the classes sort of thing, where like the darker coloured skin were the privileged, and then the people with the skin condition was, I don't know, they were the oppressed, and they were the ones that would get abused by society, stuff like that. I could have been more wrong. It's a straight up modern day fantasy flick, and he's a troll? Sorry, an orc. And so the movie comes out, and I see this.
When you try your best but you don't succeed.
No, why? Why couldn't it be good? I finally got excited for a movie coming out, and it comes out with titles like that. Quick sidestep, those articles are rubbish. They're just trash. People calling this the worst movie of the year are idiots. Again, we've had Emoji Movie and 50 Shades Darker and Transformers The Last Night come out this year, and people are calling this the worst movie. But anyway, so I nervously start watching it, and I'm going through it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, why aren't people liking this? And I can see there are some things that people, like, if you don't know what to expect when going into it, it's a bit of like a, not a culture shock, but like a, oh, okay, this is the kind of setting, the kind of vibe this film's giving off. Urban in the streets sort of thing. It's very class against class sort of thing, but with that fantasy element tied in, not particularly well. Like, it could have worked. It could have been the next Training Day or sort of End of Watch. It could have worked really well, but neither of them lived up to their full potential. Like the whole cop aspect and the different classes, and then the fantasy elements. I mean, it's really interesting, and I agree with a lot of people saying that it should have been like a mini-series or something, but in the end, it's just kind of a mediocre movie. I enjoyed it a lot more, but that may just be my bias towards it, because I really wanted to like it, but the very end, I'm sorry, it was dumb. I don't really want to spoil it, but it's like a movie where it's established that there's a 1 in a million chance of something happening, and then right at the end, in a matter of like 2 minutes, it's revealed that one of the main characters, oh, that's 1 in a million, and then 2 minutes later, that's it, it's gone. And then there's this really awkward scene afterwards where it's really trying to be funny. Will Smith and his buddy are getting, you know, grilled by these detective agents sort of things, and it's very clear that you're supposed to sit down, shut up, and not say anything. And the other one's like rambling on. It's like, oh, this is what happened, and blah 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 blah. All of a sudden, I'm not the serious stoic character, and I'm suddenly comedic relief. No, I'm not supposed to say that. Oops. Yeah, I didn't say anything. Yeah, that was dumb. But I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's making me sad just thinking about how great this movie could have been. I do really love David Ayer, and I hope he gets a lot more better projects than this in the future. Number 6, It. Yeah. Don't want to talk about this one at all, really. Because I remember watching reviews of it, calling it best horror movie in years. And sure, horror movies I don't like to watch. I don't watch horror movies, and I assume they're not that great. But I remember watching a review, Angry Joe, if you know him, I remember watching their review, and there's 3 of them. And there's Joe, other Joe, and one other random guy. And they're reviewing it, and the one on the end, that's not the 2 Joes, was talking about how it was really disappointing, he didn't like it at all. And the other 2 Joes were, you know, they weren't like being dicks about it, but they're like, no, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about, I disagree, sort of thing. And the comments were just ripping into this guy. And I'm like, whoa, okay. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Everybody loves this movie. And then 2 people I know went to see the movie and they came back and were like, well, that was dumb. So I wasn't looking forward to seeing it. I don't even know why I saw it, but it just cropped up online, so gave it a watch, and yeah, it's not that special to me. I didn't enjoy it. It was a little too silly for me, and I get that was the point. I get what people are saying. I'm not saying that people are wrong with the whole, oh, it doesn't make sense why Pennywise doesn't just attack the kids and blah, 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 blah. Like, I get that sort of aspect of it. But it really does feel like, I assumed they had already planned out the second movie, but when you watch it, it very much does feel a lot like, hey, we kind of want to make this its own thing. I mean, we want to make the sequel, but we don't know if we're going to be able to make one if this doesn't make money. And everyone's loving that kid from Stranger Things, and like his sort of, oh, it's like a foul-mouthed kid, that's what kids were like, blah, 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 blah. And the best way to sum it up is right at the end of the movie, there's this really serious scene that's supposed to be super freaky, and I don't want to spoil it, but something's resolved, and it's like this really impactful moment, and it's left to hang in the air like, whoa. And then just before it's about to become like a really good scene, the kid's like, oh yeah, witty joke with a swear word, and he just ruined a perfectly good scene, and that pretty much sums up the whole movie, where it's like they're afraid to let a scene linger or let it become super creepy, and they have to interject that with either a jump scare or ruin it with a bad joke. Now, I understand why horror movie fans would love this, because if you get disappointed by a lot of horror movies, and then this one comes along, it'd probably be a big improvement. But when I go see this, and people are like, oh, this is so much better than the old TV miniseries with Tim Curry and blah, 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 blah. It's not saying much. And then I see it, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah. It's alright. Good imagery. It's a well-made movie. Good acting, but it was more meh. Not bad, just disappointing. Moving on. Number 5, Cars 3. I like Cars 2. Not in an ironic way. When I still lived at home, my little brother, my dad, and I would always watch animated movies, and we all really liked Cars 2. I understand why people hate on this movie. Not that I agree with it, but that's beside the point. Cars 3 is a movie I took my brother to see at the cinema, and while I'm sitting there watching it, I know there's nothing particularly wrong with what I'm seeing, but it was just so bland. The film is visually fantastic, but I just found it so forgettable. Like, until recently, when a friend of mine actually finally got around to seeing it, I had forgotten that it existed. And even now, I can barely remember a lot of important details of the movie, like character names and character motivations and stuff like that. So like I was saying, a close friend of mine recently saw the film, and he was just saying that it was such a nothing movie. Like, there was a message to it, but there wasn't enough substance behind it. Whatever, it was so bland that I'm getting bored just talking about it. Like all the previous movies, it's not a bad movie, it's just something that I'm just so apathetic towards and so meh that I forgot it existed. Alright, so a quick after edit. While I was editing this video, I watched a video of like the top 100 movies of the year or something, and I completely forgot that Fate of the Furious came out this year. Like, I don't know how, because I kind of like the Fast and Furious franchise, but I completely forgot that movie came out this year. So, I guess in Cars 3's favour, it wasn't as forgettable, it was more just memorable for being meh. I can't believe I forgot Fate of the Furious existed. I cracked up laughing when they announced that film's title. Anyway, back to the video. Alright, gotta get the sword back now. Now for the second movie I referred to at the start of the video that I didn't enjoy, that everybody else did. Oh boy, here we go. Number 4 is Baby Driver. Ah yes, a movie I, like many others, had never heard of until reviews started going up for it, calling it amazing and a must-see thrill ride for 2017 moviegoers. Though I wasn't interested in it until I found out that Edgar Wright was directing it. I think that's where all my thoughts and feelings on the matter fall apart. See, everyone was praising this movie for being really fun and original and just really enjoyable, and I love the Cornetto trilogy and Spaced. I'm not a huge fan of Scott Pilgrim, but I really appreciate like the stylistic choices made in that movie, and it is a good fun. So anyway, I go into this movie looking forward to crazy stunts and enjoyable action and good characters and just Edgar Wright's signature brilliant directing. And the movie's going along, I'm like, yes, it's got one of those things. The cool stunts. Yeah, I was a bit excited at the start when John Bernthal showed up. I really like John Bernthal, but kind of fell apart. The trailers made it look like Kevin Spacey was going to be a bad guy. I mean, we know now he is a bad guy in real life. But anyway, so the movie's set up like it's gonna be, okay, he wants to leave this organization, but Kevin Spacey won't let him, and I'm just having a hard time focusing my thoughts on this movie, because it's just, why do I bother trying to justify my thoughts on a movie I didn't like that everyone else did? You know, I'm just gonna do it, I'm just gonna try. The main character, his name is Baby, I thought was alright. His backstory was, you know, fairly good. Original, for one thing, like having the whole thing with his ears where he's always got to be listening to music to help him focus and stuff like that. I didn't like the love interest character, or her character was alright, but like the whole weird relationship between them, like, I know that Edgar Wright directed this, but it seems like it was directed by someone else. He must have done like screenplay or something, because just a lot of the stylistic choices weren't his typical motifs and stuff like that, which is fine, I guess, but my main issue going into this is when several people say that this is Edgar Wright's best film. What? Go back and watch Shaun of the Dead. Go back and watch Hot Fuzz. Go back and watch The World's End, alright? This is not Edgar Wright's best movie. I don't think that much of Scott Pilgrim, but that's leagues above this. Now again, this is not a bad movie. I'm just saying why I was disappointed. That was the main thing, is that people keep talking about how this is his best film. And like I said, I don't like to let reviews go to my head, but that was some anticipation I had, was that this was going to be really good. But it was lackluster comparing it to the others, so not even comparing it to the others. What was I saying? Oh yeah, certain editing choices, like when he meets his love interest in it, it's weird, it goes all slow-mo and she's like skipping or frolicking through a cafe and she's singing really slow motion and just happens to be singing a song that's about his name or something. It just that's a nitpick, but it's just a lot of moments like that, and that's a trend between Logan and this, where they're good movies, but if you can look past the silly moments or the weird stylistic choices, then you can enjoy them, but there were just too many of them for me to overlook. And like, the main character, he's a bit of a dick. Like, he steals a car earlier on in the movie, and he gives the handbag back to a lady, and they bring that up later in the movie. It's like, oh, he's a cool guy. Then later on, he steals another car from a bunch of guys, but why? Because they were smoking and listening to music? They're bad guys or something? And he just takes their phone and wallet and drives off. I'm like, this guy's a dick. Like I said, a lot of moments in this movie where it made me go, really? Again, introducing John Bernthal, and then he's in the opening scene, and that's it. Killing off Jamie Foxx so quickly. Like I said before, I shouldn't be doing this with a headache, because I'm trying my hardest to explain why I didn't enjoy this as much as people, you know, said that I should. They were saying so many good things about this movie, and then I just found them so off. Like, some of the characters, the choices they make, where they flip-flop, like Kevin Spacey's like, I'm the bad guy, oh, I'm not the bad guy, oh, frick, I'm gonna die now, and the person who ends up being the main villain in the end is kind of a weak choice. Like, they were buddies, and then they're not, just whatever. The car stunts were really incredible, I did enjoy them, and a lot of the driving was really good, but this was very clearly a bigger, more expanded version of the music video that Edgar Wright directed a long time ago, starring Noel Fielding in that. And the thing is, they have that in the background for like a split second. You see it on a TV before someone walks in front of the TV. That was a lot better than this. People were saying, oh, it's really cool, this is based off that, or like expanding on that, that was a cool idea, little Easter eggs. I'm like, yeah, well, that was better. That little 3-minute 40-second music clip was more enjoyable and funny than this movie. To me, anyway.
I think you find that was more like 3 minutes.
A lot of people really like this movie, though I'm not seeing it in a lot of top 10 best lists. So I'm guessing people may have just, you know, forgotten about it or something. Yeah, Baby Driver. Not my cup of tea. You know what, the sword's not going to help me anymore. Right, we're getting into the third and final movie that I referred to at the start of the video that I didn't enjoy as much. Now, this one was a lot lower on the list until the other day. I was lying in bed, and for some reason, everything I didn't like about the movie just popped into my head again. I'm like, sweet, I can up that on the list, and I actually remember everything I want to talk about. So, number 3, War for the Planet of the Apes. The current generation of Planet of the Apes movies are like a visual spectacle. They are so well made, whether it be Weta Workshop or whoever's in charge of the special effects and stuff, and the motion capture. Bravo to them, that is amazing. that aside, it was actually Jeremy John's reviews that got me interested in these movies. So I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I was surprised. It was like an emotional story between Caesar and Dave Franco's character and his father and just stuff like that. And I felt compelled to watch the second movie because I enjoyed that one so much more. And I remember Jeremy had said that the second one was so much better and just grand, and it could be movie of the year, and it could have been like one of the greatest trilogies when the third movie came out. So I watched the second one and I was like, yeah, okay, good. Very different movie. The first one was more of an emotional character story. This was more of a, I don't know, a visual spectacle about, it's all revolving around the apes versus the humans, but the human characters were completely underdeveloped. Like when you have Gary Oldman in your movie and you don't remember a thing about him, you know there's something wrong, right? But it was still a good movie, but I didn't agree with that the second one was better than the first. But anyway, going into the third movie, Jeremy comes out with another review for the third one saying that this is the best of the trilogy. So I'm like, I don't know what to think anymore. So I go to see it, and even in the cinema, I was saying to myself, yeah, this is lackluster, this is pretty mediocre. I mean, sure, the visuals are as amazing as ever, like the CGI craftsmanship, brilliant. Okay, I'm not talking about that. So I'm just going to list off a bunch of things. Now, they may be nitpicks, but when enough moments and decisions made in a movie take you out of the experience, or make you think, okay, that's not right, or that's dumb, or doesn't live up to the reputation of the series, then yeah, I begin to think it's not that much of a good film. I begin to think it doesn't deserve some of the praise it's getting. So, at the start of the film, there's this brilliant shot where it's like panning up a hill while all these soldiers are stealthy and ninja. That's really cool, but it develops this character, or puts the camera on this character, this younger looking guy. So we're thinking, okay, maybe he's going to be like the character, the human character we focus on the most, because Caesar spares not spares him, but like spares his life, as well as another couple of soldiers. So it's like, okay, this kid, the camera's focused on him a couple of times. He's going to be important later on down the track, but whatever. The big thing right at the start that I did not like, in fact I hated it, is when Woody Harrelson, who plays the bad guy, he comes in, and this is a huge spoiler for the movie. If you want to see the movie, just skip through to the next point on this, because I need to talk about spoilers to discuss why I didn't enjoy this movie. Just a heads up, while recording this video, I got the name of the character I'm about to reference constantly wrong, so prepare for some really bad editing. So, he comes in, and he kills Caesar's wife and his son, Blue Eyes. Now, he's got a little baby son that doesn't die, but he kills Blue Eyes, his wife. I really liked Blue Eyes. They developed his character. They brought him in the second one, and his wife. The whole second movie was about Caesar and Koba, and like their kind of battle for power, and Blue Eyes being torn between what his father's saying and what Koba wants, sort of thing. And Blue Eyes was an incredibly good character for the audience to connect to and focus on. And I mean, at the end of the day, he's just another ape, but he wasn't. He was one of the main characters. And when Caesar's out of the picture in the second movie for a lot of it, you focus a lot on his story. He loses his friend. His decisions have a big impact on the film. And they kill him off. Like, he's not there right at the start. He returns on a horse a couple of minutes in, and it's like, hey, my son, welcome back. And then he gets killed. I was shocked. And that was the point, was to shock you and be like, oh, whoa, this is a real bad guy. But I've just realised when I said that out loud, that's kind of like when you have to force a reason to hate someone, where you have to force the audience to hate a bad guy, rather than having it build up or show different things he's done. Like, straight from the start, he just comes in and kills the wife. Okay, maybe that's a good choice, but I didn't. You kill off these important characters. The wife wasn't a huge character, but a lot of the plot was centered around, like, her in the second movie, not like her character, but like what Caesar was willing to do for her, sort of thing. So to kill them off so quickly right at the start, especially a character I really liked, was like, what? So then Caesar goes off one way and he leaves his family of apes to go to some promised land or something like that, and they go on their way. One of them dies, and it's clear that it's not a super main character. It's one of the bigger, like, gorillas, and they die, and it's like, oh, we've been through many adventures together. It's kind of like at the start of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where that guy you've never met before dies, and they have that little moment where it's like, Indy, I'm glad we've had so many adventures, and Indiana Jones is like, no, don't die, I'm so sad. And we're just sitting here like, wait, pretty sure this guy wasn't in the other two movies, but whatever. So they're going along their way. They pick up a pointless comedic relief chimpanzee who I don't like at all, who doesn't do anything in the movie except for provide a couple of odd-placed laughs and maybe a couple of moments for another useless character. And there's this part coming up where they're walking along, and then they look down, they find Woody Harrelson's, like, base, the bad guys, or the humans that are presented as the bad guys. They find their base, they look down, and there's this sad music wells up, so I'm like, okay, this is a sad scene, because they've got, like, a prison camp, or just, like, all these apes imprisoned, and I didn't think anything of it, except it cuts to Caesar collapsing to his knees and being like, no, oh, I'm so very sad. And I'm thinking, what? Why is he all upset? I mean, yeah, it's a sad sight to see a bunch of apes, but he seems really personally affected by it. I didn't click. That's his family down there. But there's no way you could have been able to tell that, because they all look the same. They're all a bunch of CGI apes. There's no different looking ones to make them stand out, except for the female ape that he leaves his son with, that was going out with
Blue eyes.
So she was literally just written in this movie as like a love interest. She's literally there in the movie to look after the baby chimp. So she's the only one that you can tell that this is his family. But the camera doesn't focus on her. It just looks down and you see all these apes, and it's like, okay, so that's really sad and all, but why is Caesar going into this? And it's not like you find out straight away. It's like a good 10-15 minutes until they're already inside the camp, and then he sees the female ape I was talking about, and that's when I'm like, oh, okay, so this is his family that's down there. That makes a lot more sense, but that wasn't clearly conveyed. Anyway, so Woody Harrelson's character is supposed to have a tragic backstory about having to kill his son because some virus is going on, and oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention there's this little girl that's mute. And I remember watching the Double Toasted review, and they were saying that like this girl is like the heart of the movie or whatever, and there's like Caesar's very, oh, I don't trust you, I don't want you coming along, blah, 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 blah. And she's basically nothing in the movie. I'll skip forward a bit now. She doesn't do anything. There's one thing she does in the movie, and that's, I think, bring Caesar something to eat. She walks into the camp and gives him something to eat when he's trapped or something, so he doesn't die. But that's it. She does one thing in the whole movie, and the rest of the time it just gives the annoying comedic relief something to do. And she doesn't do anything. She's a pointless character. I mean, yeah, you could say she's the heart and soul of the movie or whatever, but that's rubbish. So anyway, the movie's trundled along, and there's a lot of scenes that are put there for emotional manipulation, where it's like, hey, let's rise up against the humans, and then one of them gets killed predictably, and it's like, okay, let's not rise up against the humans, and stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to keep harping on about these little moments, but it's all these moments that combine to create something that I just didn't think that was great. So in the end, Caesar goes to take on Woody Harrelson's character, and he goes in there, and Woody Harrelson's character's already succumbs to this disease that's going around. So Caesar chooses to leave him, and it's implied that Woody Harrelson ends himself. So that whole bad guy is kind of pointless. And this whole time you're hearing about this other army of humans that's coming in to fight, and there's got to be this big battle, you know, in a movie called War of the Planet of the Apes. So Caesar's running out, and they're all escaping, and it's all, hooray, yeah, we're gonna get away. And Caesar's, I think he's kind of injured. I don't know if he gets shot or if he just gets caught in a blast or something, but whatever. There's this ape that's been bad. He's like the bad guy who turns at the last minute and gets shot immediately because he turned to the side of good right at the last second. That predictable sort of schlock. But whatever. And the character I mentioned before, like the younger guy from the start of the movie, he's been in it throughout this whole time. And, you know, the camera keeps doing the cliche thing where it focuses on his face, and he's torn between right and wrong sort of thing. And there comes a point in the movie where he lifts up his crossbow, and it's like he's about to shoot Caesar. And then he gets blown up. Like, the big ape kills him. All that for nothing. I don't even think he gets many lines in the movie. So that character that you thought they were going to build and expand upon, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just dead. Wasted potential. That's what this movie is. Wasted potential. So they get out, they defeat all the humans, and Caesar's clearly injured for some reason, alright? And then the other army arrives, and there's a kind of funny moment where they all run in and like, ah! And then they get there and they see all the other humans are dead, and they're like, yeah! And this is a part that you might say is a nitpick, but it really irked me. It really bothered me, because they're all celebrating and cheering like, yeah, we win the war that we didn't have to fight. And then one soldier turns around and sees Caesar, and then, you know, magical movie nonsense, everyone turns around and looks at Caesar, and they're all staring at him, and Caesar's looking at them. And then one raises his gun. Why? You see Caesar, I mean, yeah, it's implied that they are the cause of the sickness that's been going around, but still, one soldier raises his gun to Caesar, right? And then the explosion that defeated, like, the first army, Woody Harrelson's army, causes an avalanche. The avalanche comes down, wipes out the whole entire army, which is dumb, and we're supposed to think that that's good, that that's justice, like, yeah, those bad humans got absolutely wasted. Because one soldier raised his gun at Caesar, they all deserve to die.
Oh, hey, is that a monkey? Oh, crap, is that an avalanche? Yep, that's an avalanche. Everybody run! Ah, crap, we're all dead.
Victory screech!
Then, Caesar dies. They get to where they're going, Caesar dies peacefully, the camera pans up, and that's the end. There'd be a lot more moments that I could talk about, but those are the ones that sprung to mind the other night while I'm lying in bed thinking, wow, I didn't enjoy this. I feel like I just reviewed this movie. This is the longest one here. But yeah, I thought this was the weakest of the film, and pretty mediocre at best. And it was Baby Driver, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Logan that I didn't enjoy that much that made me think, crap, am I going cynical, or have my taste in movies changed? Now, I don't expect every film to come out to cater to my specific taste in movies, but thankfully that's not the case, because there were a lot of movies this year I did enjoy, but this is the one that I felt more strongly that, yeah, this one really let me down. I was really disappointed in this one. Now, after that whole, 8-10 minute rant's over, let's move on to the movies that I thought were actually bad. This next one, it's half and half, part disappointing, part bad. Without further ado, heading into our number 2 most disappointing / worst movie of the year. Number 2, Dunkirk. Can I put the sword down now? No one's gonna throw another cooling system at me? Probably not. Okay, so Dunkirk was a movie I didn't watch until the week I was waiting for my laptop to get repaired. So it was kind of cheating, but I felt it deserved to be put on this list. Okay, let's start off with the fact. Remember in my top 10 most enjoyable movies, I mentioned how in Transformers, all the reviewers were talking about the aspect ratio changing, and I was expecting it to chop half the screen off like that, when it doesn't. It just takes little bits off there every now and then. It's very hard to notice. Even if you're watching on a tablet, I mean, cutting little bits off the screen, it's not that big a deal. This movie, Dunkirk, does it a lot. And people overlook it. They acknowledge it, but they overlook it. Now this movie, they chop off this much of the screen. They go from full screen to widescreen constantly. And I know why, I'm going to get onto that soon, but it's so distracting, alright? Transformers, I didn't find that distracting. Maybe because I turned my brain off so much, but whatever. Side of the screen, sure, chop off whatever. But when you keep doing that, you keep going from full screen to Order 1886, that's crazy!
So we go from widescreen to full screen, you see what I mean? And then back to widescreen, then 2 seconds later back to full screen, then back to widescreen again.
And this movie's getting nominated for Oscars. Right, so, let me get on with the rest of the points I want to make. I had watched Jeremy John's review. Yes, I know I've mentioned him like 5 times in this video, but I remember his was the first review I saw. And he mentioned that this movie's getting lots of praise and lots of people are loving it, but he didn't really enjoy it. Now, just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to go back to that in a wee bit. Now, I was disappointed I didn't get to see Hacksaw Ridge on the big screen. I still want to see it, but I refuse to see it on like a crappy mobile version. I want to be able to afford it on Blu-ray so I can see it on a bigger screen. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And I didn't want to pay to see Dunkirk if I couldn't have afforded to see a movie I actually wanted to see, because I do like some war movies. Not all war movies. I like good war movies. And this one seems like it was going to be a good movie that revolves around a war but isn't a war movie. Now, I get the fact that this is not meant to be a war movie, and that's fine. That's not my complaint with this movie. My complaints with this movie are literally the exact same as Jeremy Jones. If for some reason you don't know who I'm talking about, he's one of the biggest reviewers on YouTube, right? I hadn't seen his review in months. I just had it in the back of my mind. I remembered he thought his thoughts would be different to the most people. And I finished watching this movie, right, and I said to my partner, wow, because we had just watched Blade Runner, whatever the year it is, the second Blade Runner movie, and we thought that was pretty good. Not amazing, but not boring like the first one. So we enjoyed that, and then she watched Get Out, and I watched Dunkirk, and she loved Get Out, said it was her favourite movie of the year. I watched Dunkirk, and was like, well, that's another one to add to the worst list, because I really didn't like it. Now, there's the two main characters, right, they're friggin' identical. They're white dudes, black curly hair, same uniform, and I get that's the point. I get a lot of the stuff I'm going to say is the point, but it still doesn't excuse it, right? So throughout the movie, they don't talk much. Now, it's not till near the end of the movie, that I realised that one of the characters hasn't said a word. I just assumed that neither of them talk much, because they look so similar. I didn't realise that there was one of them that hadn't actually spoken a word, because there's a plot twist regarding his character. It's like, oh wait, so he hadn't actually talked? So it was him that had the few lines? Okay, whatever.
Basically what I'm trying to say is that these two characters look practically identical, and I couldn't tell which one of them was saying which lines throughout the movie, and it wasn't until near the end of the movie that they revealed that one of the characters hasn't actually said a single line of dialogue. But it doesn't matter because he's unceremoniously killed off in the background 2 seconds later.
Real quick, I just wanted to say the little opening bit where they're all walking through the town and then they're under fire and they all start running away until there's only one left. That was the best part of the movie. I love that little opening, but the rest of it just falls short. Some of my biggest gripes with the movie, it's like every year there's got to be one movie that's an audio and visual spectacle, right? That people love, and it often gets nominated for Oscars, but the movie itself, the substance of the film, is really dull or just falls flat. In 2013 it was Gravity, 2014 that was Birdman, and this year, or last year should I say, it was Dunkirk, because I heard so much behind the scenes stuff about how Christopher Nolan actually filmed everything on these, you know, like Tarantino level cameras and that sort of filmmaking. You know, and he did everything all practically, well, as best he could, and actually got these old fighter planes out, etc, etc. So the art and craft of filmmaking was definitely there, and like the sound, I assume, was brilliant, but I was watching it in headphones, so I didn't get that sort of brilliant sound. So without seeing it on the big cinema screen, seeing that visual masterpiece, because even on the little screen I watched it on, it still looked good, and I could tell that if you watched it on the big screen it'd be amazing, but that didn't excuse the content of the movie being so lackluster to me. And again, I was listening to headphones, so I didn't get that audio masterpiece. So anyway, I said to my partner after watching this, all the characters look the same. It's all a bunch of white dudes with black hair in the same uniform going along. And it's a very heavy generalization, but it was something that I said to her, and it was a problem I found with the movie, where in other films like Saving Private Ryan or Fury, my favourite movie that I mentioned earlier in this list, because there's such a diverse and brilliant cast, you know exactly who's who sort of thing, even in the side characters. Whereas this, they all look the same. And again, you could probably say that's the point, they're indistinguishable, and a lot of people in this movie's defense are saying, oh, it's not meant to be character, it's not meant to be about the characters, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, but it would have helped if I could have given a damn about any of them. I don't care who dies and who doesn't. Like, the film is made clear that it's shot out of order. So when Cillian Murphy's on a boat and then it cuts to a guy who looks exactly like Cillian Murphy being like, sorry lads in the water, we'll come back for you later. I could have sworn that was him, but I guess it wasn't, because that guy in the boat, you never see him again. I could have sworn that was him, but whatever. So the movie's out of order, not majorly, but you'll see events that you start to recognise. And if you've seen Jeremy Jones' reviews, you might be seeing a pattern. But I kid you not, everything I just said with the repeating of scenes from different perspectives, but not done in a good way, but because everything looks the same, you can't tell whether that's something you've already seen or not. It's very confusing to follow in that sense. Not like Inception. I can follow Inception fine. I can follow Matrix fine. I get these sort of movies. But this one here, it's like, there's a grey boat. There's a grey boat. There's a bunch of people in the water. And then later on, it shows people jumping out. And I'm like, are those the people from earlier? And then you see the people from earlier. It's like, no, it's not them from earlier. So it's all very disjointed and stuff. The changing in aspect ratios. The fact that it goes from day to night. And like at the end of the movie, I made a mental note. Because Tom Hardy's plane runs out of gas. And he's flying for like 20 minutes. Slight exaggeration, but he's flying for a long time in movie time. And it cuts to nighttime with the soldiers returning, and then it cuts back to daytime, and he's still flying. So it's like, okay, although you know it's still the same day in Tom Hardy's time, it makes it look like it's cut to nighttime, and then the next day he's still gliding along on fumes sort of thing. So that aside, all these things that I mentioned, the aspect ratio, the characters looking the same and not having any depth to them, everything, after watching the movie, I watched Jeremy Jan's review, and he literally said everything that I had just said to my partner. I was so shocked that I literally said, babe, pause what you're doing and watch this. And I played her the clip of Jeremy Jan's reviews, and she's like, what? You literally just said that? I said, I know. And it wasn't because it was in the back of my mind from watching his review. I don't remember anything. So if you want to know exactly how I feel about this movie, go watch Jeremy's review. That's a very weird promotion right there. But yeah, he basically puts it a lot better than I do. And being a popular YouTube channel, he's got a lot more support than someone like me.
Because the movie doesn't really have characters. It has people in peril. People are in this movie. Characters though? No, not really. A lot of average looking white dudes with dark hair. In a lot of scenes I'm like, are you the same guys that, I think you might be. Now the movie will hop over. It's like, whoa, it was daytime a second ago. Now it's night. Now it's day again. And then you're like, I feel like I've seen this scene before. It's doing the thing where it's showing me the same situation through someone else's eyes. So in a world where all these ships look the same, it's not always clear that you're seeing the same thing because the editing of the movie was kind of messy.
Okay, seriously, screw this guy and screw this video. Wait, what? An hour long? Okay, I no longer feel bad about the length of my video.
Dunkirk, probably a good movie, but for me it sort of almost gets into the bad territory, alright? Now, I've talked about it long enough. Moving in to a couple of honourable mentions. Now, I have not seen many movies this year, so my honourable mentions, there was only one. And I'm going to combine it with the number one spot because my laptop died last week, as you know, and I forgot to update the list, so Dunkirk wasn't actually on the list, which I didn't realise until I had just finished doing War for the Planet of the Apes, so Dunkirk wasn't on it. But Dunkirk's now number 2 instead of number 3. It's all very confusing. So the number 1, 2 worst movies in number 1 are...
Number 1, Death Note.
Ah, yes, a terrible movie that no one's gonna judge me for disliking. Death Note 2017. Oh, this movie, you know what? When it came out, I didn't think many people would see it. And I stayed up late to watch it. And it was so terrible. So I started collating notes. I wrote down notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. I made points. I made little flow charts and things. I got excited because I was going to make a video on it. So I took heaps of screenshots. I went through the movie. I combed the movie for all the necessary screenshots and thought of jokes and referencing it to other things. And I put it all on the current video software I was using. I put loads of effort into it. And I thought, well, not many people are going to review this, right? And I looked at reviews and there was nothing. And then by the time I had finished getting all that stuff together the next day, I looked and there were only 2 little reviews by, you know, small channels like me. You know, people with barely any subscribers just wanting to talk about the movie. So I thought, yes, this is going to be good. So I recorded a basic intro and I was like, this is very good. I like this. And then by the end of the day, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Jans, Weekend Warrior, everyone, every big channel was talking about this movie, had big reviews. So I'm just like, well, okay, might as well throw those plans out the window. Same thing kind of happened with Bright. I didn't think anyone would watch that, and then they all did. Everyone wanted to review it and that. But probably because everyone wants to talk about how bad it is. But this movie, this movie, I do not watch anime. I don't actively go out of my way to watch anime. I've seen almost a season of Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure that's the extent of my anime watching. I've seen a bit of Persona 4, the animation of that, so I'm not familiar with the anime. But my partner was like, hey, Death Note's really good. You should watch Death Note. So we sat down and we watched it because it's on YouTube. And the first 8 episodes of Death Note, I found were some of the most thrilling and gripping storytelling of any show I'd ever seen. The first 8 episodes are brilliant. I love the dynamic between Light and Al, and it's amazing, and I loved it so much. Now, most fans of the show, so I've heard, say that the quality dips significantly after a certain character is killed off near the end. And while I don't agree or disagree on that, for me, I really found that the whole task force thing, I didn't particularly like that as much. So the episodes were going along. We got to episode 8, and they were talking about making a task force. Now, every episode before that had progressed the story in major beats, like it was going along at a really good pace. And then the last episode we watched for that day, they created a task force, so I assumed, okay, that'll last a little while and that'll be it. And then the next day we watched a bunch more episodes, and it becomes clear, oh, this is going to be what the majority of the story is about, it's the task force. I was a bit disappointed at that, but that's what the show is, so I took what I was given. But needless to say, after watching it, I really, really, really liked the Death Note anime. I could talk about that later, but I'd need to watch it again because the first time through I didn't realise how philosophical it was. Like, that was the main theme of it, was philosophy and right and wrong and justice and stuff like that. I enjoyed it so much that I bought it on Blu-ray. Anime is expensive. I did buy it on 50% off sale, of course, but still, that's how much I enjoyed it. So when this movie was coming out, and the whole whitewashing controversy and stuff like that, I was not obviously looking forward to it. But when it came out, I gave it a watch and, wow. Yeah, it's bad. Not only does it butcher every character, like, I love L so much. For my birthday, I asked for a little L with cake pop vinyl figure. You reckon you get anything cool like that in this movie? Nah. I don't want to talk about this one too much. No, I know I sound like a broken record in saying that, and then I proceed to talk about it for 5 minutes, but I really do feel like maybe one day I might get those notes and images together, even though it was all lost when my laptop died, and make a video on this. But yeah, this movie is bad. It's, I think I thought of something really clever to say. It's, despite having an R rating, it's the most immature adaptation of another form of media out there. Like, it wears its R rating on its sleeve, like, look at me, we can be all gory and stuff, and it's just unnecessary. Like a guy getting his head chopped in half by a ladder or something, and it's just, like, if you're in for a gore-filled ride, I mean, just look up clips on YouTube. Don't watch the movie. I'm not a major fan of gore, so it was very over the top. Like, there's a part where, there's spoilers, I guess, someone gets nudged while holding a knife, and they stab themselves, and, like, that's bad enough. But then it makes an effort to cut back to it and show them spewing like a friggin' gallon of blood. It's just unnecessary, gratuitous, and just so immature. Like, in anime, I'm sure blood is used very, not sparingly, but it's used for a purpose. Whereas this, it was just like, we've got an R rating, let's make all the characters swear like a sailor and have blood everywhere. It's gonna be the best movie ever. The scene between L and Light, it started really well. And then Light gets up to go, and then it's like, hang on, no, I'm gonna sit back down and ruin the scene and begin the climactic clusterfudge that is this movie's ending.
Do not move! This man is Kita. I'm working with law enforcement in order to capture and eliminate...
This movie is bad. Now, if you enjoy it as a guilty pleasure because you haven't seen the anime, that's fine. If you enjoy it as a guilty pleasure with also seeing the anime, okay, still fine, personal opinions. But for me, I'm with the majority of people that just say this movie sucks. It butchers the anime completely. And even as a movie on its own, like, I went to this like, okay, don't judge it as an adaptation of the anime, judge it as something on its own. On its own, it's rubbish, alright? There were so many situations to incorporate the best parts of the anime, like, I'll take a potato chip and eat it! Or, you know, like the crazy guy going, delete, 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 just stuff like that. I mean, they left heaps out of the anime, so why bother making a 40 or so episode anime into a 1.5 hour movie with Hollywood climactic sequence set piece on a Ferris wheel? It's just, what the crap am I watching? Look, take my word for it, it's bad. If you've seen it, you know how bad it is. If you haven't seen it, do I recommend watching it to see how bad it is? Possibly. Possibly. If you're alright with that kind of poorly done graphic content and stuff, sure, give it a watch. Should you watch the anime? Definitely. I really, really enjoyed the anime of Death Note. You know what? I'm just gonna write this movie in here and hope that it disappears. Right, with that one out of the way, my other number one might be a surprise to some people, but for the longest time last year, it was my number one movie, and at the end of the year, I still have to say, this is my number one most disappointing and actually worst movie of the year. Obviously, because of a goof up with the script, it's tied for number one. But my number one, worst movie of the year.
Also number one, Trolls.
Obviously, you sort of can't judge animated movies too harshly because they're meant for kids, but then, you know, you get someone launching into a big spiel about how animation's great for appealing to all varieties, not just with, like, edgy jokes that you don't understand till you're older, but, you know, they can be for all ages and stuff like that. But I still feel a bit bad about talking about you know, an animated movie is one of the worst of the year. But as I mentioned in my top 10 favourite movies of 2017, I talked about how Transformers 4 ruined cinema for me, and it's the first time I'd actually sat down on a movie and hated what I was seeing. Well, this was similar, but for animation. I've taken my brother to see Minions, and that it wasn't this bad. I mean, it was bad, but it didn't insult me or anything. And it's weird talking about Trolls, but I wanted to go see Moana at this time, but New Zealand being the great country it is, we get everything, you know, months later, and it sucks. So the website had said it was coming out on the 23rd, so we go in on the 23rd, it's like, oh no, it actually doesn't come out till after Christmas. So we went to see Trolls instead. This is the first time watching an animated movie that I've been sitting there and just, I did not like what I was seeing. It was stupid. It was just bad. I was so annoyed watching this movie. From pointless, annoying characters like that cloud thing that shows up for no reasons, like, I'm funny. It would, in another movie, it would be an annoying comedic sidekick like Olaf or Jar Jar Binks, but in this movie, he literally just shows up to stop the plot and is like, hey, I'm gonna be annoying for a couple of minutes.
This scene isn't even that long, but this useless, annoying, pointless character shows up to stop the film and prance around being an annoying son of a gun. Literally feels like an eternity. Make it stop!
Shut up. And other things like the music. I mean, this is going to be another one of those ones where they sell the crap out of the soundtrack. Obviously, they did sell the crap out of the soundtrack, but it wasn't incorporated into the movie as well as some Disney movies where, you know, they'll have songs that actually progress story or echo stuff that's going on. But no, this one they literally just stopped to have a dance number. It's one of those sort of movies. And the worst, the absolute friggin' worst of this movie is when they butcher The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, more so than Disturbed ever could. I kind of like that version, but this, they just stop the movie, they do Sound of Silence. And
No!
then the only good part of the movie is when the guy grabs the guitar and then just throws it in the fire. Like I said, guys, I don't want to hate on this movie for ages because it's still an animated movie made for kids, but I enjoy animated movies. I think they're a great way to express heaps of different various ideas. It can be fun. You can do limitless things with animation, pretty much. Like, who would have thought you could have a movie with a giant panda doing kung fu and stuff, and that'd be one of my favourite movies? Or insert the name of literally any Disney 3D, 2D animated movie, whatever. The point is, Trolls, it hurt me to watch it, alright? It's the first time I've taken my brother to see a movie, and I just sat there like, I hate this. I really don't like this. The music, and the characters, I mean, just like any animated movie, the animation's fine, the voice acting's fairly decent and stuff, but we're just sitting there like, I don't like what I'm watching. And to me, that's bad. When I'm going to see an animated movie, I don't expect it to be that bad. Like I said, I haven't seen the Emoji Movie, but whatever, I'm just dying talking about it. Oh gosh, this video's so damn long. Alright, if you've sat through the whole video, then you are a legend. Thank you. I did not mean for this to be so long. I'm sitting here, it's so hot, I'm sweating like crazy. I'm gonna wrap this up now, so I'm sorry if whatever I said in this video upset you, if Logan and The Wolf of the Planet of the Apes and Baby Driver and Death Note are your favourite movies of the year. That's cool. These are not my worst movies. Dunkirk, Death Note, and Trolls, I think, are my worst movies. The rest of them are just the disappointing ones. So, I'd like to thank you guys very much for watching. Leave in the comments below your disappointing movies or some counterpoints. Don't go calling me names and stuff because I didn't get the subtle complexities of Logan's coughing or anything like that. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Check out my other videos if you want to, and I'll see you next time.